Hello, this is D, and I'm back with another video. Well, today we're going to be reviewing the highly anticipated PSVR2, Sony's latest virtual reality headset, and it's been generating a lot of buzz, so I'm excited to dive in and see if it lives up to the hype. Now, let's start off with the design. The PSVR2 has a sleek, futuristic look that's sure to catch most people's eye. Now, the headset is lighter and more comfortable than its predecessor, with a simplified setup process that should make getting started a breeze. Now, the headset also features inside-out tracking, which means you won't need to set up an external camera or sensors to get started. Now, the first thing that I noticed is that I don't have to deal with the breakout box of the previous PlayStation VR headset. That one, you had to do an HDMI in, out, you had to hook it into a box, hook it into the system. It was just a lot more to set it up. With the PSVR 2, it's one simple USB cable to the front of your PlayStation 5 and you're ready to go. Now, when you're starting it up, you're greeted by a host of screens. You go through eye tracking, you go through setting up your room scale, and I have to say the room scale was really cool. You see the walls and everything being calculated, it being gridded up right there in front of your VR headset, and it's just a really cool experience. The eye tracking is something that is really amazing on this. I think the eye tracking works pretty good. Now, the tracking that's actually on the PSVR 2, that's another thing. I thought the tracking was pretty good on it, but sometimes if I would put the handset too far behind my back, it would lose tracking. Now, with the Quest 2, it has cameras that are placed a little bit higher at the top that do catch you going back a little bit further. So I would have to say on other headsets, the tracking is better. It needs a little bit of work on the PlayStation VR 2. It's not bad, it's just not the best tracking that I've seen. Moving on to the display, the PSVR 2 features an OLED screen with a resolution of 2000 by 2040 per eye. Now, this is a significant improvement over the original PSVR, and the difference is noticeable. The visuals are crisp and clear, and the vibrant colors and excellent contrast are noticed right away. Now, the HDR, when you're going around the track in GT7 and you see the sun in the reflection of your mirror, you have to squint, and that really adds to the immersion of the game. Now, GT7 is a fantastic game. We'll get into that a little bit later on in the review, but I have to say overall I am impressed with the visual fidelity of the PSVR 2, but it does have one thing that does bother me, and that is the Mora. It's similar to the screen door effect. Now, if you're not familiar with Mora, it's a term that's used to describe a visual distortion in virtual reality headset that appears as a grainy, cloudy texture on the screen. While it may be a minor issue for some, it can actually be very distracting and take away from the overall immersive experience. I have to say that it does take it away a little bit from me. It depends on the game. Some games that are really dark, you don't notice it at all. Some games that are very bright, it is a little bit noticeable. I notice it most on gray areas. Any type of gray background or gray text, I really do notice this effect. Now, the first headset that I got, I actually thought that it was defective, and I took it back to the store and exchanged it for another. Now, my second unit was marginally better, but the effect was still there. I didn't get away from this Mora issue. Now, I searched over the internet and I saw that many other PSVR 2 owners were also experiencing this Mora problem. Now, some users have reported that the headset display exhibits a noticeable level of Mora, especially in a lot of gray scenes, like I was saying. I do own many headsets, and I have to put this into consideration that a more expensive headset is going to offer a better image. Now, you have the Quest Pro, which is a lot clearer than the PSVR 2, but that headset does cost $2,000. I also have a regular Quest 2, and I do find the image quality better on this, I would say, for the clarity. Now, when it comes to the color, the contrast, and the brightness, the PlayStation VR 2 is beating it. Of course, it has other features like the eye tracking. It has foveated rendering, which only renders where you're looking at, so it frees up a lot of GPU resources on the PlayStation 5, and honestly, you can't even see this working. I tried to look around really quickly to see if something would go out of focus, and it never happened. So I have to say that this feature is working well. What's really causing this Mora problem? The more I looked into it, I realized that this is a process that happens with OLED displays used in VR headsets. So it's a known issue, and I have to be fair, there's going to be trade-offs on different headsets. Now, the Quest, it doesn't have this issue, but it doesn't get the pure blacks that you get from an OLED. It doesn't have the contrast. It doesn't have the HDR. Dark scenes on the Quest 2 do not look as good as the PSVR 2. However, the overall overall image is a lot cleaner. So you're gonna have trade-offs with the different technologies. So we're just gonna have to wait and see if Sony addresses this issue. Other headsets have had this problem and software has been used to minimize the problem. So I'm hoping that Sony does push out a firmware update that will kind of address this issue with the Mora, because it can be distracting when you see it. Now, some people won't see it at all. Some people are not sensitive to it. This is gonna be their first headset, so they're not gonna notice it at all. I think mostly the VR vets are going to notice this, and people that are really looking for it.
Now let's talk about the screens. This is very particular because on paper, well, there's no competition at all. The Quest 2 is an LCD display with a resolution of 1832 by 1920 each eye, running up to 120 Hz. Instead, the PSVR 2 is an HDR OLED display with a resolution of 2000 by 2040 each eye, running up to 120 Hz as well. So, well, on paper, PSVR 2 has better contrast, better colors, better resolution, better pretty much everything, right? Well, kind of. Because, well, in VR is not just about the resolution, and the Quest 2 is just crisper, it's easier to read text, it's easier to see details, and I'm not really sure what's going on with the PSVR 2, but yeah, we have amazing colors, amazing contrast, but it seems like they put a filter on this screen to hide the screen door effect, and yeah, everything feels blurrier than what it should.
Now we gotta move on to another area where the PSVR 2 really shines, and that's in the controllers. Now the new controllers feature a really good design that feels great in your hands with a responsive haptic feedback and adaptive triggers that add a new level of immersion to your VR experience. This is even in the headset. Now they've also equipped it with motion tracking and finger sensing technology, which means you're just gonna have a more interactive experience in your virtual environment. In terms of games, the PSVR 2 has a solid lineup of launch titles that showcases the headset's capabilities. Now we have quite a list of titles. We have Horizon Call of the Mountain, Resident Evil The Village, Gran Turismo 7, No Man's Sky, Kayak VR The Mirage, and a favorite of most people right now is Pavlov. Now this is a first-person shooter that really gives you an immersive experience in VR. I'm also hearing great things about Synth Raiders. I'm gonna try it, so if I get a chance to try this before this review comes out, I'll leave a little quote on the screen to let you know my experience on this game. But it's basically like Beat Saber, so you're gonna have a really good time playing this game. It's a rhythm game that's gonna give you a great workout. Now the full list, I'll link it in the description down below so you guys can see it for yourself of all the launch games that are available. I have to say, overall, I am impressed with the lineup. Now, Horizon Call of the Mountain was definitely a standout for me. The VR experience in that game, the scale of it is really good. The resolution from the videos that we saw before launch did give me the impression that this game would be a little bit better looking. Now, it does look good, it's just the resolution is not as high as I thought it would be. Now, Resident Evil Village, that game looks amazing in VR. You're getting the full experience that you got on the consoles, but in VR. So this is another win. Now, if you've played other VR headsets, they're riddled with games that are kind of like demos. Now, this is a full game. Now, we have to talk about Gran Turismo 7, one of my most highly anticipated titles for the PSVR 2. And I have to say, it really delivered. The graphics in Gran Turismo 7 look absolutely stunning in VR. The cars are incredibly detailed with every little bump and scratch visible up close. The environments are beautiful with lush landscapes and bustling cities that truly come to life in VR. And thanks to the PSVR 2's HDR OLED display, the HDR is mind-boggling. Everything looks incredibly vivid, and I would have to say the resolution is pretty good as well. Now, it wasn't as good as I was expecting it to be. A lot of the videos that we saw before the PSVR 2's release on GT7 is going to be just like the PS5 version. Now, there are some cuts in resolution as well as textures. Overall, it looks pretty close to the PlayStation 5 version, but it does differ a little bit. But the HDR in this game is incredible. When I would see the sun glaring off a car or in my mirror, I would have to squint, which really added to the immersion. Looking out the window of your car and seeing the cars pass by is something to behold in VR. So overall, I have to say the experience was incredible, but the graphics are only part of the equation. The real test of any racing game is how it feels to drive the cars, and I'm happy to say that GT7 nails it. With every turn, acceleration, and braking feeling just like it would in a real car. The added immersion of VR takes us to a whole new level. Now, playing this game with a wheel will blow your mind. It is just an incredible feeling. It also is very good with a controller. Now, I wouldn't use it with the DualSense VR controllers. I would use it with a regular PlayStation 5 DualSense controller or a supported racing wheel. Either choice is good. Of course, the wheel is a little bit more immersive, but the controller feels good as well. And once again, it is just an incredible feeling in VR. Now, one area that I didn't like is that GT7, I didn't see a multiplayer option. Now, if this is something that I missed, let me know in the comment section down below. But right now, I have to say that the VR mode is limited to single player races only, and hopefully this is something that will be addressed in the future. In my opinion, Gran Turismo 7 is a standout title on the PSVR 2. You really get a sense of scale when you're going down these hills on the track, when you're looking at the cars whiz by you. It is a fantastic experience. The only downfall I would say is that the mirror was a little bit apparent in this game, but after you race for quite some time, you kind of forget that it's there. So I would have to say this is a killer app and a must buy for all PSVR 2 owners. Another game that was a standout for me was Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy. This game really looked good in VR. The sense of scale was really amazing. So I have to say overall, I am impressed with the games. Now, I do wish that they did have more launch games. However, the games that are available are quality. Now, in the future, I do expect Sony to crank out a lot more games. I expect some of these older games to become backwards compatible. In fact, there are a few games that have been announced that will get patched to support PSVR 2. Now, some of these games, you have to pay $10 to upgrade it. I'm not sure if this is across the board, but I have seen this for a few games. However, some of these games will be playable on the PlayStation VR 2. So overall, I have to say the games are fantastic on the PlayStation VR 2. It really gives you a sense of what this headset is capable of. And I do expect Sony to be supporting the PSVR 2 with a steady stream of content. Now, I know on the channel we cover a lot of PC and Xbox stuff, and we don't really get into too much PlayStation stuff, but I do own a PlayStation 5. I own the original PSVR. I own a ton of VR headsets, so I felt that it was necessary for me to do this review because I have a good grasp on the technology. Now, I was really put off by the mirror effect. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, so put off. Like I said, I had to go out and exchange my headset, and this was kind of a bummer. But I had to think fairly, and I had to really think of all the things that the PlayStation VR 2 does right. It does a lot of things that other headsets don't do, such as HDR, eye tracking, like I said, the contrast, the color brightness. It is better than the Quest 2. The Quest 2 does have better clarity, but the black scenes, they look worse. It's not as bright, no HDR, so you have trade-offs. So there's a difference in each technology, and I have to put that into my review. Now, the cons on the system is the mirror and the small sweet spot. This headset has an incredibly small sweet spot. You have to get the sweet spot right to get full clarity out of this headset, and it can be a little bit tricky. In fact, every time that you put this headset on, you're gonna have to redo the IPD adjustments to make sure that you're getting the best out of your headset. So this is definitely a con on the system. Now, the price I think is pretty good, so I would say that's a pro. I would say the colors, the HDR, the motion tracking, those are all pros. Another con is the controllers for the PSVR 2. They don't last too long. They last about 4 to 5 hours. It kind of is a con, but in all honesty, you shouldn't be really playing VR for more than 5 hours. So putting this all into consideration, I have to highly recommend the PlayStation VR 2. It is a great headset. It's not perfect, and I don't think any headset out there really is perfect. Now, of course, on PC, you can have a better experience, but you're going going to be paying more money. Those headsets cost significantly more than the PlayStation VR2, and a lot of them don't even have the same features. So overall, I have to say, if you're on PC, I would kind of hold out to get this until they have some PC support. I think somebody will hack it in the next 6 months. Hopefully Sony allows this to work on the PC natively. It doesn't look so at the current time. I think they're taking a loss on this unit, so they want to recoup it with software, which makes sense, and I can't really be mad at them for doing that. I do think it is a missed opportunity. I think if this was on PC, they would have sold a lot more. This is still available at launch, and I do believe, once again, if it was on PC, this possibly would be sold out. Now, we can't cry over spilt milk. It's not on PC. I think it will get patched in. So until then, I would kind of hold off on it if you're a PC player and you want just to go out and get a PlayStation 5. I think you can overlook the Mora over time. It's not evident in every single game, so I don't want to say this is a reason not to get the PlayStation VR 2. I just want to express to you guys that this is there and it may affect your VR experience. So basically the choice is up to you if the PSVR is worth it. Personally, I do think that if you own a PlayStation 5, it is a worthy upgrade. It's better than the original model significantly, although it's not a dramatic leap forward over VR technology that we have right now. I think it was a little bit overhyped. It still is a very good display. It has great controllers, it has a strong launch lineup, and I think Sony has a commitment for ongoing support for the PSVR 2, so I think it's a solid investment for anyone looking for the best experience in virtual reality, especially in a console. So overall, those are my thoughts on the PlayStation VR. If I had to give it a number, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Anyways, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. What do you think about the Mora issue? Are you experiencing this in your VR headset? Has it broken the immersion for you, or have you seen past it? Let me know in the comment section down below, and like I usually say, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one.